Hello, this is Tim Winders. I'm a business coach and I'm the host of the Seek, Go, Create podcast. And let me tell you, if you really want to learn how to level up your life, you should be listening to the Time to Shine podcast with my friend, Scott Ferguson.
Time to Shine today, Varsity Squad. It is Scott Ferguson, and we are at episode 119. I've been waiting to drop this episode with my good friend Tim Winders from Seek, Go, and Create. He's got the podcast Seek, Go, and Create, which is fantastic. So go find that on Overcast or iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, wherever it is that you listen to your podcast. But go and check Tim's podcast out. He travels in an RV with his lovely wife, and he gets to see the world. And on the road, he coaches clients to level up their life. Tim's a man of faith. Tim is a man of conviction. Tim is a man of peace. And I love this interview with Tim. So sit back, relax, break out your notebooks, because here comes my good friend, Tim Winders. Hey, time to shine today, Varsity Squad. It is Scott Ferguson, and I am super, super stoked. I got my boy Tim Winders, and he is the nomad. If you look in it, you're watching this on video, my brother is in a 39-foot RV, and he's really ready. He made time for me. He's ready to back out, and he's going to make his way east. I believe he said he's right in kind of the Midwest, maybe Missouri or something like that, and he is about ready to make his way east, and I can't wait till he makes his way down to Lauderdale so I can meet the man for a coffee. You know, he's got a podcast you have to check out. It is in my show notes. It's called Seek, Go, Create. We kind of run on the same platform a little bit about helping people level up, and he interviews people as well. I'm hoping, hint, that I get on his show as well. But, Tim started and ran multiple businesses since 1985. And if you look at this dude, he don't look like he could be alive and running successful businesses since 85. And he's even transparent. He says some done very well, some have not. He's worked as a coach, consultant, and trainer since 1990. In 2019, he started the Seek, Go, Create podcast. His wife and himself live and work in an RV and consider themselves, like I said, nomads. Tim is a man of faith. And I love that he's not ashamed of that. And I cannot wait to bring him on. So, Tim, without further ado, come on and introduce yourself to the Time to Shine Today Varsity Squad. But first, what emoji do you use the most when you text?
Well, this will say a lot about me. I do not use an emoji at all. No emojis for me, Scott. I don't know if that helps or hurts.
No, you're
with
fine,
the
brother.
Squad.
No.
But man, I get straight to the words, straight to the content. Don't mess around. Don't play with emoticons or emojis.
What's your favorite color and why, Tim?
You know what? My favorite color would be black. And the only reason I would say that is if you open up my minimalist, essentialist wardrobe little cabinet, you would see about a handful of black shirts, black pants. It's simple. It makes a statement. You know, I feel like I look pretty okay in it. And
you're wearing it now.
I'm wearing it now. You know, I think black is a power color also.
It is.
And some people say, "Oh, black, that's boring," you know. But hey, black's my favorite color. So how about that?
It's a statement color, and for me, a guy that's like 270 pounds, it's slimming. So it's like it kind of makes. I like my black as well, but
that's a sidebar, and I welcome that also.
Awesome. Hey, Tim, let's get to a little bit of origins, man, and work our way up. And you help people level up. You interview people, and a fantastic podcast, folks. By the way, you have to take a listen to it. But give us a little origin story, please.
Well, I grew up, born and raised around the Atlanta, Georgia area, small town in the suburbs of Atlanta that got swallowed up as I was growing up, Scott. And the interesting thing was when I came out of high school in the early 80s, I just knew I was going to be successful, man. I didn't know what it was going to be. Both my parents were educators. And I took a look at the U.S. News and World Report, and they said the top 4 most in-demand work roles were engineers. I was okay in math. Georgia Tech was a little bit down the road from me. I said, you know what, I'm going to become an engineer. Went to Georgia Tech, got an industrial and systems engineering degree from Georgia Tech, got married coming out of Georgia Tech, and I came out and I realized that engineering was not exactly what I was cut out for. Went to work corporate, and my second day corporate, I said, I need to figure out a way to get out of this. And about 8 years later, I'd gotten out with some businesses we started and other things. But Scott, I realized that really what I was wired to do, and I think this is important for all the folks that are on the squad, the folks listening in, is our purpose in life is to find out what our assignment is, find out what we were created to do, what we were supposed to be. And I looked at a U.S. News and World Report thinking that the money was going to drive that. But I was really designed and created to coach, teach, and train and reach down inside people and pull out what was there from the time they were created. And so the coaching gene is built inside of me. So everything I have done, I have moved into a role where I either teach, train, or coach people how to do those things. And the cool thing is I can tell you're kind of that same way, which is awesome.
Awesome. Yeah, absolutely. So tell us, all right, so what, I got to ask you, like, this is probably pulling forward a little bit, but what got you on the road? Like how you and your wife just kind of nomad the life and whatnot. I know there's something that led up to it, so I'm intrigued. So I'm asking it way before I want to ask anything else. So tell us a little bit.
Well, that's a great question, because one of the things and I'm sure your listeners are this way too, is when you begin entering this area of entrepreneurship, coaching, business, just doing things, you kind of dance to a little bit of a different beat than most people in society. And so it gets you just thinking differently. And so we started a process back in the 90s and the 2000s. And I'll just go ahead and fast forward. By 2008, we had 3 companies that were 7 figures, had over 100 pieces of single family homes in and around the Atlanta area. At the time, you're in the business, it was valued over $15 million in real estate.
Uh-huh.
Who knows if those numbers were valuable or not. We had a national coaching business, lead gen business, all of those things, Scott. And 08 happened. We were living in a resort community. We had a Ritz-Carlton as a neighbor where we were living, 117 holes of golf outside between Atlanta and Augusta, Georgia. And by 2013, this is really fast forwarding the story. By 2013, we were homeless, nomads, living out of a Honda van. All of that was gone. That's a long story, but it's a cool story for a lot of people to learn from. And so we just said, you know what? We're going to travel. We're going to be nomads. We're going to go. And we started house sitting. We lived in Australia, New Zealand for a little while, all over the U.S., living in homes that we didn't build, we didn't pay the bills for. And Scott went to Bible school for a couple of years up in the mountains of Colorado. And to fast forward again, when we finished that up in January of 2019, my wife said, hey, let's travel again. Why don't we get an RV? And I went, RV? I can't even spell RV.
Love it. I love it. So let's go back to the coaching. What do you think makes a great coach?
I've over the years, I would have answered that a little bit differently. But right now, I believe it's love.
Okay.
If you don't have an incredibly intense love for other people, and when I say love, I mean, Scott, that means that you have to sometimes talk tough. Sometimes you have to give them a hug or whatever you can do in the world we're in today. Sometimes you have to encourage. But unless you have just an incredible love for that person or for people, it's going to be really difficult to. And listen, I've listened to your podcast. You get a lot of coaches on, and they give great answers. So sure. I'm going to kind of layer it with what I believe is a foundational principle. There's a lot of skills and techniques,
sure,
but that's the heart that comes with coaching.
I love that. I love it. So, are you coaching now at all?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So you're bringing somebody into your coaching program, or you're kind of in the discovery process, maybe even past that. What is your secret sauce then, to, if you don't mind sharing, to help them find their blind spot?
Yeah, no, not at all. And there's levels of this, and I love your level up because you're always leveling up. There's right. Never a place where you reach it. So my first indicator is, and you know what, this is a book, if you don't mind me referencing it. Carol Dweck wrote a book, I think it was like 06, 07, called Mindset. And she basically groups people, and we have to be careful grouping people. I know, I mean, we're in a society right now where that's really causing issues, where we put people in identity groups. But she basically says that people are either fixed mindset or growth mindset. And so, Scott, the number one thing that we have to do when we are working with people, and it's going to be extremely frustrating if you don't, is identify as if they've got that growth mindset, so that they're willing to make some change, willing to adjust, willing to tackle things that are going to be tough. Because if they're fixed, let me just tell you, we can beat our heads against the wall all day long, and we're not going to get anywhere with them. And you know what? We've all dealt with those folks,
Sure.
right? But that's the secret sauce that starts off my process, if that helps you a little bit.
Absolutely. Do you do that with powerful questions? Is that what you're kind of asking them to really find that, see if they're fixed? Or obviously you're listening not just with your ears, but with your eyes, and you're looking at them and emotions and whatnot. But is it real powerful questions that you're asking them?
You know, the question asking process is definitely part of it, but people that have a growth mindset leave clues.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? They read books. They don't sit around and stream Netflix, 24/7. They post curiosity type things on their social media versus dogmatic statements. And listen, some of us get dogmatic at times, so don't.
Absolutely.
Someone's going to go snoop me out and say, this guy. But they just leave clues. They treat people around them with kindness and love. Listen, I look for people that are fun to be around. Nobody likes to deal with jerks either.
Sure.
And so that gives you a little bit of that. It's interesting, Scott, I've got to share this.
Sure.
Had you interviewed me 10, 15 years ago, you would probably be getting some extremely formulaic, extremely, almost, I'll use the word dogmatic again, answers. Yeah. But when people go through, getting punched in the nose or go through collapse or just, adjustments in life, the thing I like to say is it kind of softens the heart, and we have a little bit more grace and understanding to deal with people.
Sure.
And listen, I'm a hard charger, man. I'm an engineer at heart, systems, process. So anyway, I hope that helps a little bit.
No,
I hope
I love
helps
it.
your squad with those answers. They're a little bit different, Absolutely. Maybe than some people may.
No, yeah, it's very humble. It's very, very solid answer. So if I'm out networking and pressing flesh, we're starting to release into the COVID out of COVID. By the time you get this, we might even be in stage 4 or whatever they're calling it. But right now we're in stage 2 here in South Florida. They still don't believe really in social distance. But so been out networking, pressing some flesh, or even virtually networking. And I'm talking to somebody. What would they say that might make me think that they would be a great referral connection or introduction for you as a coach?
Yeah. Well, they would say some things like, I have done well in my life, but I believe I'm called to do more. I've succeeded to certain levels, but I'm rethinking how I define success. And it seems as if my assignment might be more than it currently is. I just brought on a new client. I'm working with an entire leadership team of a company that's approaching 10 million. They're really successful, and they really have a good hedge against the current economy, Scott. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be working with leadership, communications, and growth for the entire executive team.
Wow.
And the guy came to me and he was listening to the podcast, and he basically said, we're doing well. We're about to maybe move towards an expansion of our business, but I'm going to bring a little faith in this. He says, I think God is really wanting me to do more with the success that I've had.
Sure.
And he says, I look at what you're doing, and I believe that you could help stretch me and do that. So does that answer your question?
Absolutely. Yeah. People that really want to level up, and they think that they are, but maybe they just need that direction. And you're maybe there to push and guide them a little bit. So what do you think is something that people misunderstand about Tim the most? Because you live a life that a lot of people probably underneath their ego blanket wish that they could do. But what is the one thing that you think people misunderstand about Tim the most?
Boy, another great question, Scott. You're great at this. The thing that probably people misunderstand is they look at people that are at certain places in life, and they think they haven't had any challenges or issues. And it's kind of one of the reasons
Yeah.
why I share my testimony in this story pretty often,
Yeah.
because, to go from 3 7-figure plus companies to, $100 in your bank account, living out of a Honda van, it's almost like we need to remind people that there's struggle and victory in all that we do in life. So I think, listen, I've been really blessed. I've been married for 30 plus years to my wife, gorgeous wife, and
Awesome.
married a beauty queen from the University of Georgia, even though I'm a Georgia Tech guy, married way up the food chain. 2 great kids, just had our first grandchild, and people say, oh, you're living the dream in the RV. You know what I did 20 minutes ago, Scott? I went and unhooked a sewer hose.
I love it. I love it. Humble, yeah. But you know what? You're living life on purpose. You're living your life intentionally for you. And a lot of times when people see you doing that, they don't know how to react sometimes. And that's why I was just asked, was something that somebody might misunderstand. Tim, if you again, we're going to kind of go back to, if you're taking on a new client, is there any one question that you wish they would ask you but never do? Because as a coach, you ask all the questions to, like you said, kind of dig in there and kind of see if they have a growth mindset, like you said. Is there any question that you wish they would ask you but never do?
The question that I would love to get, and I poke at this with some of my assessments and some of my onboarding when I bring clients on, Scott, the question I wish people would ask is, what can I do to succeed in all areas of my life? And when I say that, I'll use a few spiritual terms here. I mean spirit, soul, and body. Mm-hmm. And that kind of layers into another question, Scott, and that is, am I defining success correctly? And in the society that we're currently in, I mean, listen, let's just go ahead and call it like it is, with all that's going on around us. Lockdown, no lockdown, riots, whatever. And whenever this releases, I am so hopeful that the world is absolutely perfect and there are no issues.
Sure.
The chances of that are very slim. But to me, the thing that all of us need to be doing on a constant basis, and it's where an advisor, a mentor, a coach can help most of all, is, how do I define success?
Sure.
And that definition needs to include health. It needs to include, what am I doing for my immune system?
Sure.
What am I doing in my relationships,
right,
with my children, with my spouse, with my partner? What am I doing spiritually to connect with whatever that means?
Sure.
Because I don't think people can ignore it. Even the people that really wish they could ignore it can't.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
We call it our pillars here at Time to Shine Today, and I liken it to a jazz band, because I really don't think you can have balance, because balance is zero, but there's harmony. And if you have a jazz band, like, your personal relationships might be the drums, and your money, which money is important, sorry, but it is, it is the guitar, and then love and whatnot is your horn. And if any of them are not tuned in, it can throw that harmony off. So that's where we kind of, when I put my clients through, is that having harmony in those different areas. So I love that you explained it like that.
I use the word peace. I use the word peace as a word they use. Are you at peace?
Sure.
Like, if you and I were talking and I say, all right, what are the areas that you are not feeling peace in? Sure. It's like, my health. I don't feel real good about my health. So, okay, let's see what we can address there. And that's even for corporate exec leadership clients.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I've gone through a wave with a new client recently, and I can tell you that 80% of what I'm addressing is not work-related items.
Yeah.
And you know what? I'm cool with that, because that's part of success. That is part of success. Yeah,
there's that mind or like work-life balance a lot of times where they're crushing it at work, but they're still working like 70 hours. Me, I was that guy as a real estate agent. And then, my mentor kind of told me to start being ambitiously lazy. So that's what I am. So I started kind of delegating and whatnot, but I digress. So let's get in our DeLorean with Marty McFly. All right. I'm sure you've heard me ask this, but let's go back to the 22-year-old Tim. And what kind of knowledge nuggets are you dropping on him with the experience that you've had since then? I don't
the
know if
first
you'll
thing
listen, but I know my
Yeah.
Scott wouldn't. But
22 will be interesting. First thing I'm doing is, man, I want to check out the DeLorean because I wish those things would have made it and we still had them. And,
sure.
The Tesla doesn't quite fit that, but it's close. But, I think the biggest thing, man, I was a hard charger at that age. I was busting it. I had a business when I was at Georgia Tech, and then I got out, worked corporate, started another business. And I think that what I would say is learn how to rest and be at peace in some other areas other than just pursuit of the dollar bill, because I was going after that dollar bill.
Sure.
And you know what? I've had a lot come and go over the years. I am so thankful that I've still got this, my beautiful wife by my side and children and all that.
Sure.
But I could tell you, I look back at my earlier self and I could see how real easily they could have gotten tired of the way I was going.
I love that. Learn
that
to
helps.
get rest and ease in all areas, not just the dollar. Like we just kind of went back. You call it peace, I call it harmony, and I love that you said that. So, your dash, like that little, we talk about the dash here. How do you want your dash remembered? That little thing between your life date and death date. How do you want your epitaph to read? How do you want to be remembered, Tim?
I've got a background in ministry, consider myself a pretty strong man of faith, and really we marry all of that with what we do in business and our podcast and everything. I would like, there used to be a thing on my wall, Scott, that said, when I enter the gates, I want to hear the words, "Well done, thy good and faithful servant."
Nice.
And there's kind of a little bit of a sidebar to that. My daily prayer meditation to achieve that is to just ask the question, and I'll just go ahead and word it the way I do. Lord, what is the assignment that you have for me today? My assignment right now is talking to you, Scott.
Love it.
And your squad and your people.
And
so hopefully
present.
encouraging.
I can see it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
That's my assignment.
That's a heck of a legacy you're leaving there. So you've kind of gave like a little definition of success, but what do you think, what is your definition of a life well lived?
It kind of spills over to that same
kind of figured you'd say that. Yeah.
Yeah. But listen, listen, if you get to the end of that day and you don't have some people around you, and that's probably what my 22-year-old self wouldn't have really cared about. I liked people if they could achieve and help me accomplish my goals. But if you don't have the people around you, if you don't have the long-term relationships, if you don't have some people that would return a favor if you needed to ask for help yourself, then to me, I'm not sure that we could define that as a life
right
well lived. And again, man, you're catching me at an awesome time.
Sure.
10 years ago, 15 years ago, different answers.
Sure. Absolutely. So what's one thing you know for sure?
The one thing that I know for sure is that there is a God.
Love it.
And that he is not controlling everything, but he is allowing things to happen so that he can advance his kingdom. That's the one thing that I know for sure.
I love it. I love that you're convicted with that. That's beautiful. Hey, Tim, as we wind things down just a little bit, I like to have my leveling up lightning round. So you and I could talk for 20, 30 minutes in each one of these topics, but you have 5 seconds. So no explanations, just fire off the answer. They're super easy. You ready?
Okay, I'll try.
What's the best leveling up advice you've ever received?
Read.
Share one of your personal habits that contributes to your success.
I do not watch television.
No TV. Love it. Okay. Other than your own website, and of course, timetoshinetoday.com, that's my shameless plug, what is a great internet resource you like to go to level up?
You know what's happened recently is that we have Masterclass, which has some phenomenal classes and training on it. If you're familiar with the Masterclass training system. And so it's kind of website. It also, we can kind of stream it in via the TV that I don't watch other things, but I'll watch a Masterclass on it. Masterclass.
Beautiful. I love it. I did it myself. So you already mentioned this in the question 1 where you're reading, but let's recommend a book, not one you're reading now, not the good book, the Bible, not the flavor of the month. What's the book that if someone's in doldrums, like mine is Andy Andrews, The Traveler's Gift. He's a Christian comedian, fantastic book. Literally, I have kind of the same story as you. I was sleeping in a couch in a short sale when I lost everything. And I was handed that book just out of the blue. I think I attended a seminar and some guy said, you should read this book, and it changed my life. So what's the book?
All right. The book is The Choice by Ogmandino, because I think it might be unique to the audience if they haven't heard.
There you go.
Ogmandino's famous for The Greatest Salesman in the World. He wrote 17 plus.
Oh, yeah.
And I just finished a novel, and truthfully, he inspired me to write it. And that book, The Choice, is one of his most powerful books, if you ask me. So
absolutely. Fantastic.
Pick that up if people haven't read that.
Oh, yeah. I'll throw that in the show notes too, people. Okay. What's your favorite charity and organization you like to give your time and or money to?
We have a family foundation that's a 501c3 that we do coaching, and we help organizations grow that are advancing the kingdom. So we funnel our time. So what I do in the for-profit world, we also do in the nonprofit world with our family foundation.
Beautiful. Beautiful. And what is the last question? What's the best decade of music? 60s, 70s, 80s, or 90s?
70s. 70s rock, man. Classic rock. You can even narrow down the year. It was 76, Fleetwood Mac, Rumors, and Eagles, Hotel California.
Seeger too, man. You got a lot of stuff that came out then. My dad used to work security for Seeger. I grew up in Detroit, and it was cool. So I got to meet Rockin' Robert a lot. So it was really, really neat. So how can we find you, Tim?
You can find me at the best place right now is seekgocreate.com. That's our podcast, and they can find it on all platforms. Also, timwinders.com is my personal site with coaching and all that. You know what I'll do for folks? If anybody goes to that site, they can click on, and if I can work it in my calendar, my schedule, I'll talk to anybody that wants to have a conversation.
Love that.
I could get it on my calendar. I'll communicate. I'll do a 30-minute call with them just to chat and do whatever we need to do.
Love it. So tell me a little about this novel that's going to be rolling out, A Time to Act.
Like I said earlier, it was inspired by Ogmandino. It is a novel, which an engineer typically wouldn't write a novel because we're not typically good with, verbs. But anyway, so it's A Time to Act. It was something that I got inspired to write when I was in a camper van in the middle of the North Island of New Zealand. And I won't give the roots to it, but it basically is a story of a business guy who's at the lowest point that anyone could ever be in life. And I'll just go ahead and share. He's holding a gun to his head in chapter 1, and he goes on a journey to basically find out what true success is. And the subtitle is, it's a novel about finding peace in a world that's full of chaos.
You and I are like so cut from the same sheets. I'm finishing up Level Up. It's Your Time to Shine, Volume 1. Same guy, real estate agent, lost, huge commission, going to quit the business. Goes and tells his millennial broker he's quitting. Millennial broker has a father who said, listen, if you ever want to quit the business, here's 5 people you need to talk to. And he handed those 5 people to the character, and he sits down with them. So that's fantastic. Well, I cannot wait to read it. So I'm looking forward to my signed copy. All right, brother?
Sure, you betcha.
Hey, so leave the Time to Shine today squad with one last knowledge nugget you want them to take with them, internalize, and put action to.
Yeah, I think the best thing that people need to do is to be self-aware, is to raise your self-awareness. And there's a lot of ways of doing that. I'll tell you how not to do it, and that is why we talked earlier, watching TV and sitting around doing nothing, scrolling through your social media feed. The way to do that for me personally is to have someone speak into your life that can stretch you. That might be a coach, it might be a spouse, it might be a parent. So to level up is to be self-aware, and to be self-aware, most of us need help doing that.
Love that. We just had a master class. I'm still writing. That's why I'm pausing here. I mean, I literally, if you're watching on YouTube, I have a whole just page of notes from my good friend Tim here, who's going to remind us that our purpose is to find out what our assignment is. And Tim wakes up every day and asks God to provide that assignment for him. And that's just fantastic that he said that. Great coach has an intense love for others. And if you're looking for coaching, make sure you have a growth mindset and willing to make changes and trust the coach. I'm just reading through these. I'm blown away. So if you're working with a coach, you want to really succeed in all areas of your life, not just the money, but your relationships, your family, you're giving back, and also really work to be at ease and rest in all areas of your life. I mean, like Tim, I do mine through prayer and in my version of meditation, my discussions with God. And Tim wants to leave really a legacy of well done and being a good and faithful servant. And he believes God is really not controlling. He's letting the world play out to expand in his kingdom. And most of all, be aware and get somebody to, if you're really in that growth mindset, get someone to speak into your life and stretch you. And Tim, you're so humble, yet you're so hungry. You're leveling up your health, leveling up your wealth, leveling up your faith, leveling up your mindset. We're so blessed to have you on. You're part of the Time to Shine Today Varsity Squad, so you can't go anywhere. And really appreciate you coming on, brother.
You bet. I enjoyed it. Thank you, Scott.
You bet. Talk soon.
Hey, thanks so much for listening to this episode of Time to Shine Today podcast, proudly brought to you by Sutter & Nugent Real Estate Excellence, who can be reached at 561-249-7266 and online at www.sutterandnugent.com. If you're a business owner or professional who would like to be interviewed on Time to Shine Today, please visit timetoshinetoday.com/guest. If you like this episode, please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever you get your podcasts. There's a link in the show notes to our website. Also there, you will see our recommended resources. We hope that you will support our show by supporting them. If you like what you've been listening to, it'd be great if you could just give us a 5-star rating and tell your friends how to subscribe while you're at it. I'm your host, Scott Ferguson, and until next time, let's level up. It's our time to shine.